and background checks, interviews, consistent interviews, but more importantly, interview guides for your hiring managers. Cognitive testing I've seen used, personality testing, aptitude testing, and then also, many people do background and even drug testing for specific positions within their organization. I'm going to talk a little bit around the processing applicants using these selection tools. So this is what we define as a bit of a quality of hire workflow, and this is a bit of a sample workflow for frontline positions. And for those of you on the call who have got applicant tracking systems in place, this will be very applicable to how you go and organize your workflows. And for those of you who don't have it, this will give you a bit of a handle on, if you watch the technology section from the last session, you'll get a handle on how technology can help facilitate this. But essentially, as an applicant comes online and goes to your career site or goes to apply, the first step is for them to complete an electronic pre-screen questionnaire. Some of the best practice in this questionnaire is obviously do not make it 45 minutes long. That's the first piece of recommendation. But I think what's critical is that you use the key job requirements that you're looking for. What's the education levels that you need? What's the past experience that you need? And those are great questions to use in this pre-screen questionnaire, because that typically knocks out a good chunk of the candidates, but also boils it down so you can assess on the next step behaviors and so forth. So as they come through and complete this pre-screen questionnaire, there should be a way that these candidates are scored or ranked, whether it is green, yellow, red, or a percentage score. Many applicant tracking systems will allow you to screen those candidates based on their survey responses. Once those candidates are screened through, top applicants can be phone screened using a competency-based phone screen guide. We recommend competency-based phone screen guides because we find that they're the most effective in ultimately having the candidate really explain exactly how they've demonstrated those skills or knowledge or whatever those job requirements are. Competency-based screen guides we find are very effective once we've got clarity on the job requirements. From there, the next step would then be to potentially send an online assessment. Many of you perhaps use behavioral assessments or personality assessments, and there's a couple different schools of thought. Some organizations wait to the very last minute to basically have these online assessments done, and the challenge with that a lot of the time is most of the time you've already made up your mind on whether you're going to hire the candidate or not. And the best practice, in our opinion, is the earlier you can do this assessment in the application process, the better. Some would even argue that it should be happening. So I know many of you on the call probably have it as part of your electronic pre-screen questionnaire, but the challenge is having people complete 25, 30-minute long assessments upon application. The candidate drop-off is fairly substantial. But the online assessment, we typically like to drop that in right after the phone screen, because what it does is it helps then either confirm or deny some of the competency-based phone screens that we had done, but then also helps to filter that down even further. Once those candidates have passed that, then the applicants then can be interviewed by the store. A background check would then be conducted, especially if they're dealing with cash on a day-to-day basis, and finally they're hired. So a fairly simple workflow, but it's kind of a rounding out a lot of what we've talked about and what we're talking about here today. So I hope that may give you some ideas on if you're looking at putting together a new workflow or a new set of systems. I highly recommend this approach from a step-by-step perspective. So the predictive validation process, so fancy words for basically are these assessments actually working? So there's a few key steps that once you put these things in place and you make a decision on what that job analysis, once the job analysis is complete, the job requirements are done, and the assessment piece has been put in place is, are they actually working? So as we mentioned, the steps to this is performing a job analysis, number one. Obviously then choosing your procedures. So as I mentioned earlier, we use a lot of phone screen guides or maybe assessments that you want to use to go and assess these competencies and skills. You can do it a couple different ways. You can administer the selection procedures to a group of applicants, or you can really randomly or select all applicants. So what you want to do is you want to test market this as far as before you roll this out across your entire company. You want to make sure that these guys are working effectively and these tools are working effectively. Then you need to obtain measures of the job performance for the applicant after they've been employed for a sufficient amount of time. Now, if you were hiring a .NET developer or a senior sales director, 3 months per likely isn't enough time. If you look at your frontline staff, though, I do think that a range of around 3 to 6 months is probably the right amount of time that you can go properly assess if your assessment tools are working in relation to overall performance. And then finally is to correlate the job performance scores of this group with the scores they received on the selection procedure. So is someone who's working out great in the store who's got a high performance level, were your assessment tools really clear on that? Maybe you've got to make changes to your pre-screen questionnaire. Maybe the assessment tool is the one that's throwing things off. So what's critical is if you looked at 150 applicants, for example, that came through the process that were ultimately hired and ranked their scores on how they did across the key different areas, and then compared that to the overall performance, it should give you a handle on what areas of your screening and selection process are very effective and what areas aren't very effective. So now I want to jump into, again, I've glazed over some pretty deep, pretty chunky content there, and I do appreciate that there's, some people are just kind of like, I can imagine on the call right now that there's notes and notes on some of this stuff, because it is a very, very big thing, and this isn't even a 1-month exercise. We're talking about things that typically take 6 months to a year potentially to go put in place end to end. So I do appreciate that there's a lot of content there, but I felt it was applicable, and I didn't want to go and leave anything out. I decided to kind of stick to much more of a higher level approach. So I hope that was valuable, and I hope it may give you some perspective. And certainly, I encourage any feedback here in the Q&A section as well. So now, as I hop into the candidate experience section, the key thing here is what I want you to do is I want you to think about this, and what I encourage everyone on the call and to approach this is look at your employment brand and application process through the eyes of the applicant or the candidate. So I'm gonna run a poll here, and the poll is, let's see here. Okay. Okay. The question is do you currently measure candidate experience? And I'm going to launch that right now. Okay, so we've got, I'm just going to close the poll down here. It's about a 30% yes, 70% no. And I'm not surprised. This isn't a metric that a lot of organizations typically embrace, because it is a little bit of black magic, and it's very subjective in nature. But I do think that things are changing a little bit, in particular with how the market's shifting right now, where we're getting back into a candidate market here over the next 6 to 12 months. And that candidate experience can be a great tool as a competitive advantage. So I will hop into this here in the process. So the candidate experience and some of the questions that you need to ask yourself, and the first step is to think about it. The candidate experience is essentially your brand, and I'm going to be speaking a little bit about this, but first question is, what is your culture like, and really how is it unique? Why would you want to go work for your organization? What is the difference with your organization versus what somebody may be doing now? So are you competitively positioned with talent, someone at your competitor? How is your organization different, and why would I want to join you? What are the core benefits for joining your organization? What is the commitment to work-life balance, diversity in the community? We're living in the world of Gen Y and Gen X now. These things are extremely important to applicants. Who works there? There's obviously social networking tools and social tools that can help impact this. What will someone's day look like at work? We've seen some great videos in the past of organizations that have shared a day in the life, even through employment blogs and so forth. A little bit about the application process. What is the process like? There was one poll that we didn't launch here today, and the poll was going to be, has anyone on the call, when's the last time you actually went to apply to your own organization? I'm shocked sometimes that some organizations haven't even done it. It's painstaking, and some of you on the call, I highly encourage you to go through and try to apply, because I think it'll open your eyes to a few things. Is it a long process? Is it tedious? And what is the follow-through? This is another value. I encourage you all to go after this webinar to go and apply to your own company and look at the email. What's the communication plan that's in place? Is there a communication plan in place? it can be a real eye-opening. We focus a lot on very, very strategic, high-level things sometimes, but sometimes the simplest things we miss, and that could be a simple follow-up letter. That could be a simple making it streamlined. Are there 15 questions in the application process that you really don't even have to ask? So these are just some of the questions that I encourage you to ask yourself and ask your team around your overall brand. And then finally, as I mentioned, what the communication process is like. So from an employment brand perspective, when we were in the heat of it 2 years ago and there were no applicants in the market, we all started to sell. We started to sell really, really hard, and we sold on, potentially a brand promise sometimes that maybe wasn't there, but what it did was it helped deal with that vacancy rate at the current time. So I think what's very important is as we start to transition back into that candidate market over the next couple of years here is forget about selling jobs and think about the experience you're providing and positioning and marketing that experience. So when someone goes and you think about the experience that someone would have, is how is that going to impact someone's life? So and it's sometimes as simple as if you've got a competitive advantage in the sense you've got multiple locations in a couple key areas. Can someone go walk to work every single day, for example? I know that's a very silly little thing, but it makes a big impact. The proximity to where they work can make it, instead of them having to go take a bus every day to work, maybe they can walk right around the corner, or perhaps they're working in your local store and they get to see their family all the time, or their friends are coming in and shopping at your location. How will it impact the people around them in the world they live in? Are there family discounts? I know it's a bit of a financial incentive, but that's a heck of a story for someone to say. Is myself and my family get discounts at my place of employment? And also the brand that you've got is that candidate going to be really, is that candidate's parents or boyfriend or girlfriend going to be really really proud to go in and talk about the fact that they just started working at your organization? How is that experience different from what's offered by your competition, and really boiling it down to what makes your experience unique? The single greatest impact that can be made as far as employment branding and candidate experience comes from your employees, and this is particularly true with the new generation. There's a great line here from The Economist, and net Jenners place more emphasis on personal recommendations than on brand names when deciding which products and services to buy. Now, this is done in very much a marketing perspective, but I believe it's completely applicable to the world of recruitment. Are your current employees, do they have the ability to share job content and help encourage their friends to come join your organization? If they don't, then it could be a technology issue. You need to make sure your content can be shared. And number two is if they're not willing to do it, I think you got to take a good hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, why are they not willing to go refer people in? Is there an employee referral program in place? What is that story? Is the content unique? And does your organization set up your current employees to help spread the word on why you're a great place to work? The social networking sites, as we mentioned, I'm not going to get into any depth here whatsoever because we did chat about it in the last session. The key ones: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I did mention in the last one Foursquare, and as I mentioned very briefly on the last session, I was very excited about this new social network and tool. I will be doing a webinar in approximately 2 months on this once we get through some of our beta testing on it, so there will be an update coming on that. And if you haven't checked out Foursquare yet, have a look at it because it's going through hockey stick kind of growth right now. So the key thing here is what are people and in particular employees saying about your organization, and what are the candidates hearing and seeing? We talked a lot about Twitter previously, and for those of you who aren't really familiar with Twitter, I think everybody knows what it is at this point. If you don't know what it means, I suggest you climb out of your cave and join 2010 with the rest of us. But essentially, what Twitter is imagine you've got a magic phone, and you can pick that magic phone up whenever you like and listen to any conversation going on in the world. But you can tell that magic phone exactly what geographies, what areas you want to look in. and also listen to certain keywords. So the example that I always provide is Bob's Auto Body Shop in Etobicoke, Ontario. Bob can pick up his magic phone and listen to any conversation that's happening within a 10-kilometer radius of his body shop. So he listens for car wreck, smash the car, rear-ended, and he listens for conversations, and he comes across a conversation where Phil and Mark are having a conversation, and Mark says, Phil, I banged up the car. I got to get this thing fixed by Monday. My wife's going to kill me. She gets back first thing Monday morning.